Who's got it better than us?
Nobody! Herbert is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a great...
My goal is not to break you. My goal is to make you harder to break.
Comes back, number 6.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
Touchdown! 90-yard touchdown!
Off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown! Chargers!
Grab your lunch boxes and go attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Big W for the first time since 2012. The Chargers start the season 2-0. Thunder and Lightning turns Panthers into kittens with a 26-3 thumping. Cameron Dicker is human after all. QJ has a day. His confidence gets a boost. Dobbins and the defense runs amok. Jesse Minter feeling a bit super hot fire, hitting Carolina, thinking he's about to end that young man's whole career. Well, welcome to the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Andy Profit with Alistair Lloyd back in the game this week. And, of course, the Teach, Jack Reed. And, boys, we are feeling fine here at TDU. Woo! How we going today?
Very, very good. Very excited. 2-0, baby. Love it.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back, boys. I miss you both. I don't know if you miss me. I don't know if the listeners miss me, but I miss me. And I'm back with some takes to talk about the Chargers being 2-0. For the first time since 2012, boys. It feels good to support a real football team.
It sure does. Actually got sent... I didn't watch the game with Al this week. I got sent a message on Tuesday saying, tell me your thoughts. How did you feel watching that one? I gave him a little brief list. I said, oh, look, we'll save it for the podcast, man. And he goes, would have liked to say, missed watching the game with Lloydie. But, you know, you can't have it all. I did. We missed you last week. I missed you on Monday. There we go. Guys, it's been quite a minute since the Chargers have started a campaign in such a manner. Pundits may criticise or critique even the level of opposition and the value of this 2-0 record. But the upside, look, team can only beat whoever they come up against, and 2 from 2 is all you can ask, regardless of who we've played. And heck, the Raiders beat Baltimore. So there you go. Let's enjoy it tonight. Let's revel in the win. How do you want to kick it off, Jackie boy?
I feel... And I don't mean to make light of this syndrome, but I feel like I'm suffering from Stockholm syndrome. This team has been kidnapped by Ortiz, Harbaugh, and Roman and Minter. And it's like a sort of, you know, I've been kidnapped, but I don't really realize. And I wake up every day feeling like, who is this team? We've run for another 222 yards on the ground. Herbert's not playing particularly well, but yet I've never seen or experienced so much of a dominant performance. And I'm going, well, we didn't fumble anything. There was no major turnovers other than the Herbert one. Perhaps we'll unpack that a little later. But it's bizarre. I don't mind it. I like it. We're winning on the ground. The defense is playing well. Hey, let's keep being kidnapped. Let's keep the party rolling, baby. I love it. It's great. And to be honest, it was the first game that I watched where I wasn't stressed. I was not stressed at all. That is very rare. I thought maybe halfway through the first quarter, something would go wrong. We didn't capitalize on some really strong drives, I thought. But maybe we'll get into the Bryce Young conundrum later. But pretty happy. Stockholm syndrome. Been kidnapped. Keep it up.
Well, the beautiful irony of that.
It's a big cage that housed the big man.
Oh, yeah.
That's an ironic analogy, Jack, because the ones who had us captive and tortured for all these years was actually Telesco and Lynn and McCoy and Staley. Harbaugh's the saviour, mate. He's the guy who's come into the compound, strapped up with his flak jacket, and he's got his AK, and he's just saying, pack your lunch boxes, boys. We're going to come out here and take the NFL by storm. Yeah. And I'm feeling all of those same feelings, man. And watching this team, I started reflecting on something I've always thought is a wishy-washy concept, which is identity. What does it mean to have an identity? Is that just a buzzword? Can you measure it? I've got a view on that, Jack, just off the cuff. When I say identity to you in sport, what comes to mind for you?
It's how a team plays, how a team comports themselves, both on and off the field, the feeling, and it's so ephemeral. It's hard to pin down. That's why people don't like to talk about identity or culture, because I think a lot of people can talk it, and this is just in any organization, not a sporting one. They can talk about, we're going to be positive, we're going to build a great mindset in our staff, in our players, etc. But who can actually do it? What does it actually look like? What does it enact? How do you enact it? And it's clear that Harbaugh is enacting things just by some of the anecdotes that you're hearing from all sorts of people around the organization.
Great answer. Like walking the walk instead of talking the talk. But I thought, to simplify it, how about in a football game, identity is how you want to win football games. Let's make it on the field. And it's one thing to say we're going to be variable, chameleonic, whatever happens, we can be reflexive. But I think what we've seen through these first 8 quarters is a clear identity in this respect. We are going to run the football at near league high rates. We are going to run it and run it and run it. The players know where they stand if that is the directive. The offensive linemen know they're coming forward, not pushing back. They also know we want to be fitter and tougher than the opposition in the final quarter. And the way we're going to do that is train with extra sessions, medicine ball stuff. After the preseason, we're going to be ready. So in the final quarter, when you're tired, we're still pushing the ball down your throat. And those two things, coupled, I think, with this additional layer, which is we're going to not spread you too thin. We're going to play more players for fewer snaps. That's our identity. So 20 snaps each for defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 25 snaps each, rotation. And I think those 3 things are something that's been sorely missing. We had a lot of Rivers is going to throw it a lot. Keenan's going to catch some. Whereas now it's run the ball, be tougher than the oppo in the last quarter, and you're all going to see the field. Andy, it's working. 2-0.
Absolutely, it is. Like I said, you can only beat who you come up against, and there is a genuine identity. Jack, you nailed the descriptive, the brief of that. 22 different defensive players. Sure, the defense was only on the field for 23 minutes, 48 snaps, but you have 28 players. That's the key. You start the season, it's a completely different environment playing real football to start the year off. You always see in any sport players getting cramps and things like that, just reacclimating into the pro sports. But the mentality that Harbaugh has is to, not put all the load on 1 or 2 or 11 guys. They're keeping guys fresh, and we're not packing the lunch box. Well, maybe they're packing the lunchbox. They're packing the board games and the cards, and they're staying over there. It's a full-on investment into the culture and the environment of this team and building that together. I think Harbaugh is sort of sticking to his identity as well. There were a couple of moments there where he was pulling in the walking onto the field just as the flag's flown or the whistle's blown, and he's doing his incomplete, like the Tomlinson would-be fumble. He's right up there. He's carrying on. You love to see it. You love to see that passion and the intensity of the guy, because it oozes out onto the playing group, and it's fantastic. You continuing to see hats at the ball, ferocity, sensibility in the tackling and things like that. It's wonderful to see. It's a real treat, and belting a team in such a manner is great, because in years gone by, this could have been a trap game. This could have been one of those ones where we come up against a hapless mob, and like in the years of the Staley defense, we would still give up bulk air yards to subpar quarterbacks. And sure, we gave up 257, I think, last week to Minshew. Great receiving core. This week, 84 yards in the air. Like, that's out of this world. 90 on the ground, but you're giving up less than 100 or 170 odd yards for the whole game it's good.
Well, let's talk about dynamism, Alistair, because we were very much set that this offense was going to run a lot of gap and power, right? But we saw a very different style of running from Roman and the Chargers on Sunday, and that was, they had 28 snaps in the zone scheme and only 12 in power. or gap, should I say? Should I? And what I'm going to do is I've given Alistair these numbers beforehand, guys, so he's perhaps got some comprehension of them. But just really quickly, I went back through the numbers to try and find a PFF rated game exactly like the one we just had against Carolina. So I went back through 2023 and found it, and that was against the that was in 2023 win against the New York Jets. That grade was 63.9, exactly the same grade we had against Carolina. But this is the difference. We had 44 snaps on Sunday. The New York Jets win was 21. Romans is sitting at 5 yards per carry, whereas Moore was only sitting at 4.0. Roman had 10 first downs. Moore had only 5 first downs. Roman's yards after contact, 117. The 2023 New York win was only 39. Roman had 5 10-plus yard runs. That last team against New York only had 3. The missed tackles, Eckler. I'm not sure if Eckler was playing actually, but 2023 had 8, and Roman only the Roman-led offense on Sunday only had 5. Alistair, are we seeing different sides of Greg Roman here? We're actually seeing this guy change plays, change running, try to experiment, because I didn't think he had this kind of experimentation in him this early.
2 games, small sample, but it was promising, wasn't it? To see almost a recognition that, we ran the ball well against the Raiders, but maybe against this defense, the Panthers, a different style of running the ball will work, more zone, because we do have athletic linemen, and zone schemes are generally better for athletic linemen, because I know listeners have different levels of NFL knowledge. With a gap scheme, you're typically trying to get the run to go through a particular gap, so the lineman's job is to kind of down block and preserve that gap, whereas in a zone, the running back usually has a choice where they want to cut back their lane to. It's not designed to go anywhere in specifically, but the lineman will be out in space. And I think when you've got Zion Johnson, Pipkins, Alt, these are all very athletic players, Slater. So good on Roman. I like to see that balance. I mean, we're not seeing it in the passing game just yet, but in the running game, he's a very creative guy. You've got Matlock back there, multiple tight ends. I loved how they used Quentin Johnston on a quick jet sweep late in the game, just to remain dynamic, Jack, as you said, rather than predictable, because if you're predictable, defenses know how to prepare for you. It gets harder. Andy, I know you're a bit kind of show me kind of guy rather than tell me. We've heard all this talk all through the offseason, Roman, Harbaugh. How are you feeling at the moment? What's your confidence level like? Have you been shown enough that you're fully in there? Or is it still too early in the season for you?
It is a small sample space, but I think I've been shown more than I was expecting to see. The use of the lineman has been great. Pipkins has been almost transformed as a guard. Zion's improving, and yeah, we're seeing QJ being played properly, being used properly, and I thought it was awesome. There's been plenty of reason to be QJ haters, but it was great to see him have a couple of touchdowns, be used doing those catches in traffic, bit of wiggle like he was in week 1. And I think, like you said, that there's a dynamic element to Roman's game that is not kind of written on the wall sort of thing. It's a little bit different to what I was expecting. So I'm excited about it. I think I don't want to spoil too much as to what lies ahead tonight, but we'll need some of that dynamism coming up against Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So yeah, far more positive a feeling from Greg Roman than I was expecting. I did enjoy, kind of late in the game, you can just see him what looked like chewing on a hairpin, packing up his bag. He was just like, yeah, guess who, baby? It's Bill. I'm here.
We're going to have to post a photo of that in the comments. Bill from Guess Who. Bill with a great doppelgangers.
If you're just joining the show, I'm the king of outlandish references. So
niche references.
Niche. How good was that touchdown catch from QJ though. I mean,
Awesome.
and not a slouch either. You know, JC Horn, just casually, JC Horn. If you really don't like playing at the Panthers, we've got a quarterback room that we'd love to have you. Geez, that guy plays with some absolute passion and speed and power. But I guess this has been talked about to death already. Alistair, I just wanted to get your opinion on it. Did Herbert deliberately underthrow the ball to make QJ come back to him? That means it was a body catch, so it wasn't up. You know, he wasn't reaching for it. But I tell you what, the burst that QJ showed, obviously he's been working with Sanjay Lal. I watched it a couple of times on the coach's film. He stays low and explodes. Stays low and explodes. Those 5, 6, 7 strides really, really powering through. And obviously had the composure to get his head around, saw it, readjusted, and Bob's your uncle, easily the best catch of his young NFL career. But vintage TCU Quentin Johnson. It was awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think? Herbert's
Even
throw,
some-
good, bad?
Not bad, but I don't think that's where he wanted it to go. I doubt that he deliberately threw it short to give him that kind of low down slight, because his view would have been obstructed slightly. I think that's even stuff that QJ didn't do at TCU. That is beating press coverage, stacking to the outside against a very, very good press corner, as you've said. So that is that confidence shining through that Quentin Johnston is feeling himself. And Chargers fans, I'll put my hand up. I've been very critical of him. I didn't like him that much as a prospect. What a start to year 2 for Quentin Johnston. Herbert, let's have a quick discussion about Herbert. And this is the controversial part of the show where people in the comments will say, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a hater. Just in terms of Herbert's performance so far, this is the first start to a season he's had. Actually, it's the first time in his career he's ever had consecutive games with a PFF grade below 60. And I think they're legitimate grades. Having watched both games on the coach's film, he's missing some throws. He has been skittish a few times, just a couple where he's run into the sack. He's missed a couple open throws. Jack, you'll talk about one later, but there were at least 3 where you can see the play's designed to go here. Usually it's at the intermediate level. The guy's open and he just does not want to push that ball. He'd rather take the 6-7 yard completion. Maybe that's coached into him. Maybe that's his own inherent conservatism. But the first 2 games have not been good Justin Herbert games. The great bit is it doesn't matter the way the whole team's playing, Andy. But what do you think so far, having watched the first 2 games of Herbert? Do you agree with that? Or should I just put a sock in my mouth and Herbert's the king? Don't bag him out.
I still believe Herbert's the king, and I'll defend him voraciously. But I agree with you, man. There's definitely looked like there's been it's a slow sort of build up. And I was chatting to a mate about the games. We just talk football. I've got other football friends than you guys. I'm sorry. And he said, you know what? And he put it he put it pretty succinctly. I thought. He goes, look, there's no way to say this that doesn't come out as a knock against the Chargers, but it's kind of a good thing that we've had essentially 2 preseason games to start the season off, because Herbert missed that time with the foot injury. There was none of the guys had played together during the preseason except for minimal stuff. So there's still working into a bit of chemistry and things like that. There's being new to the system, as Herbert's there, he's going through it all. Everyone sort of Herbert's still in it and everything like that. But it's completely different when it's game time and you're right in the thick of things. So, look, I don't know what to put it down to, because I've got a question for you, Jack, and maybe this will sort of open it up a little bit more. But Herbert had close to half a second longer with his time to throw this week against considerably weaker opposition. What do you perceive to be his struggle?
There are a number of things. I mean, he was looking at over 3 seconds with his time to throw. Still through 2 turnover-worthy plays per PFF. That's very, very strange for Justin Herbert. ADOT of 7.6, so, it's not a bad average depth of target. It's not your 6, which was the Lombardi era, but he's only throwing for 130, and I'm sorry, the before I talk about the missed throw to McConkey, which I think is highlighting something quite serious, the play where he almost gets his leg snapped in half, dude, what are you doing? You're up by a lot of points. You don't have to make it. Just take the sack, man. Take the incompletion. That kind of decision making is worrying me a little bit, because that shows a little bit of, I don't want to make a mistake, don't want to throw my teammates in it. Whether that's just an evolution of leadership, which I'll talk about later, I'm not too sure. But the play I want to talk about, because we have bagged Roman a lot, and we have thought that Roman is only going to run the ball. That's what he does. And Herbert's going to really struggle in this passing game. The critical play was when Herbert threw his interception. Now, the play design is not particularly fun. I think, is it Josh Palmer goes in motion from one side to the other. McConkey's actually sitting in the X receiver, so he's out wide, and that's very rare because he hardly plays out there. The ball snapped, perfect protection up front. McConkey runs a really, really deep, sort of an intermediate curl route, sits down hard in the soft area of the zone there. The safety's off him by 3 or 4 meters, which is 5 or 6 feet, I guess, in American. The yards, I should say. Sorry. The linebacker is coming over, and Justin Herbert looks directly at him, and Lad McConkey's open for a really solid amount of time.
He's wide ass open.
Like completely, absolutely wide open. And he goes, nah. The tight ends get caught up in their blocking. Justin decides to scramble, goes forward, and just throws it bizarre. I don't know who he was trying to hit. Was it Hurst or Disley? I'm not sure who it was. Which tight end is Disley? I saw that and I'm going, oh, okay. That's one of the first times that pretty good play design by Roman. Lad McConkey's run an exceptional route, I thought. Sat down really hard and let Justin Herbert know when he was going to curl. Whether the timing was off, I'm not too sure. Whether he was slightly too deep, Justin didn't want to anticipate it, I'm not too sure. But that is worrying me ever so slightly. Al.
Let me put my Justin Herbert hat on. He missed time in the preseason. This is almost like a mini preseason for him. New scheme, somewhat new receivers across the board. Very new style of having to play. Fewer pass attempts. Maybe when you have fewer pass attempts, you're trying to make more out of those pass attempts because you have so few. So I think it's a learning curve. It's a learning process for him. Poor guy's on his 3rd offensive coordinator at the NFL level. He had another 2 at college. So am I worried? Not at all. It's week 2 and we're 2-0. I figure by the middle of the season, he'll be looking hot. But you are correct, Jack and Andy, to point it out. And that's why we do this show, listeners, because we're all saying the same thing. Herbert's doing uncharacteristic stuff, throwing terrible picks. Well, that one pick might have been one of his worst. Fumbling the ball and getting sacked. He was that close away, boys, for being out for the season. This whole game, what is going on? I mean, firstly, Dobbins, never somersault again, you bastard. Herbert, what are you doing? Christian Fulton almost comes out injured looked like he tore his groin or his adductor off the bone, and then he's back in. And then Josh Palmer's cradling his arm on the ground. Yeah. Oh, all 4 of them seem to be okay, but don't ruin this great start to the year with season-ending injuries to our quarterback and our running back and our cornerback 1, please.
Yep. I believe Harbaugh said that he didn't mind Herbert trying to do whatever he was trying to do. He's like, I don't know what he's capable of. He sometimes doesn't know what he's capable of. Just that sort of classic Harbaugh staring into the abyss.
B-52 bomber.
Yeah, just positive puffery. I don't mind him, trying to extend that play. I'm like, how about you turtle down and just take the sack? You've got Jaden Peavy and DJ Johnson draped over you. They're big men. Just take the sack. One defense I'll have is there was a little bit of pressure coming off Herbert's right-hand side as he sort of looked to hit up McConkey. I could see Josie Jules slipping into that passing lane as well. By the time he'd kind of cocked back, he'd flushed himself out. And then McConkey's made his way over and almost tried to contest catch with Disley. That's just one of those ones you don't force. You just throw it out. Like, There's
On first down.
Yeah, there's moments where it's not trying to force things and then trying to like where he could and then not forcing things where he just doesn't have to. So there's a little bit of mental stuff that might be creeping in, and
Well, Andy, do you think this? And this is me going full psychologist mode. Do you think there's a little bit of I need to make myself. I need to make myself useful because the team doesn't need me. Oh, so I've actually got to try and there's that creeping in the back of his mind going, well, I am a top 5 quarterback, so I've got to make these plays, but we're still winning. I've got to play like, what do you reckon? Do you think that might be valid?
Yeah. As much as you say, he's the team player and he's cool with it, there's got to be like a little bit while you're in the zone of that inadequacy sort of complex where, you feel like you need to do more. You need to be that top 5 quarterback all the time. And it's not like things weren't working. It's not like we were down at all. We weren't even down a sniff. I mean, half the Carolina fans in the crowd had paper bags over their head. That was some of the best broadcasting ever. Just the carry on. I felt incredibly bad for the relentless booing. But, hey, it could be things to come. If we keep playing this way, maybe one day we'll see more Chargers fans
that was
in the
good
crowd.
gear.
Than,
they show a Carolina bloke next to his sister, also his wife, same person. And the broadcasters were just having a good time with that. Before we move on to either the line or the defense, hey, we've got a British friend, Ryan Watkins, co-host of the podcast with Kyle D. And Lad McConkey, in Britain, they instead of saying slippery, they like to say slippy. He's a bit slippy, is he?
He's a bit slippy, isn't he?
Bear Grylls, he's a bit slippy. Lad McConkey, Jack, is slippy. Does the bloke have bones in his body? He's like a full Gumby. That just ability, we talked about it in the preseason. How are you feeling about his start to the NFL?
Oh, good, right. He's taken a page out of Keenan Allen, or should I say non-fat Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen's... I shouldn't say that. Keenan Allen's put on a bit of weight now. He's a big boy, and obviously injured, not playing. So he's taken a page out of like Keenan Allen when he got... I think remember when he did his Achilles against the Kansas City Chiefs years ago, and he came back the year later, and he'd always dive rather than try to change direction when he knew he was going to be tackled. But Lad McConkey seems to slip 1, slip 2, and because he is a smaller frame, I definitely don't think he's got some muscle to put on, I think, to be strong. Whether it's a tactic and he's just sort of diving forward to remove himself from contact and just get that extra 1 or 2, I still think, I can't remember who it was on this show who predicted it, but he's going to become Herbert's favorite target, I think. From that play design that I was talking about earlier, I really think that he's going to get open more often than not. Alistair, I want to throw something back to you, and I know this isn't about the line, but I was just looking at some more alignment numbers from our wide receivers, and I want to ask what happens when DJ Shark comes back, because I thought QJ might have played a little bit more in the slot to get him on those mesh concepts and those crosses, get him out into space, but he's been lined up almost 96% outside, Palmer 70%, Ladd only 33% outside, with playing mostly in the slot. What do you think is going to happen when Shark comes back?
I think he will do the Josh Palmer role, which is proper X receiver on the outside, running vertical routes. So I think QJ will stay where he is, which is a flanker Z receiver.
Yep.
Off the line of scrimmage. Still out wide, but off the line of scrimmage. And I do think McConkey will just see more and more time in the slot. If you've got Chark, Johnston, Palmer, I think McConkey's virtually going to live in the slot. Very rarely, maybe 2 snaps a game on the outside. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Chuck's a few weeks away. Offensive line, boys, and then the defense. Jack, I'll throw to you for this one. Offensive line, what are you seeing? It's a bad defense, but what are you seeing, my man?
The 2 best PFF rated tackles in on over the weekend in round 2. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, amazing, and the interior of the line was better as well. I thought Johnson was good. I thought Pipkins was okay, and Bozeman was serviceable against his old team. So, to be honest, with those 2 anchors, and also Alt holding Pro Bowl Clowney to his worst game in 11 years,
mate. 3 pressures for the whole game.
That's unheard of.
3 pressures.
Unheard of.
It's actually kind of dog shit that. That sack goes against Joe Alt for the way that Herbert kind of allowed that play to break down. That was a bit of a kick, but The way that the offensive line is working together as a group of 5 in the run game is awesome. It's new and it's delightful. And
the growth the growth between week 1, sorry, Andy, the growth between last week and this week, absolutely phenomenal. I thought they seemed far more together. Yes, it's against, and they're missing Derek Brown, the Panthers. Obviously, they're really good interior defensive tackle, but yeah, really, really good. The test will be Pittsburgh.
Looks like we got Glasses Lloyd here who wants to say something.
Numbers man is back. To your point, Andy. Didn't want to speak over you. That's a rude thing to do. Chargers offensive line. Rushing yards before contact per PFF, 2.4 yards. Number 1 in the entire NFL. Think about it. The running back's not being touched until they're 2.4 yards past the line of scrimmage. And then when you add that, guys, our running backs' yards after contact, that stat, anything over 2.5 yards after contact is very good. On the weekend, Dobbins, 3.06.
Jobbins.
He was jobbing. Haskins, 3.00. Gus, 2.17. So our O-line is getting the backs room, and then even after they get hit, the backs are taking it for another 3 yards. Winning, winning, winning. All right, over to the defense. Andy, you start us off, brother. Anything? We haven't talked about any challenging things so far. Is there anything at all from the defense you want to talk about?
We kind of have, but I just want to start off with some numbers. And excuse me, I don't have any black-rimmed glasses to throw this up. But I'm just going to start out by saying current ranks for the defense. First in EPA per play. First in total points conceded with 13 across 8 quarters of football, 1 touchdown in there. First in overall success rate allowed, 30.6%. First in opposition red zone plays with 2. First PFF defensive grade, overall of 86.7. Second in PFF coverage grade, and 4th in PFF run defense grade. So if you told me that this is what we'd be looking at after 8 quarters of football, would have told you I was a liar.
Well, I would have told you maybe we faced Gardner Minshew and Bryce Young.
Hey, look, hey, like I keep saying, mate, it's just
but
whatever you got.
The running thing's not that stat. So run defense being that good as well is isolated from the quarterback, isn't it?
Correct.
Great start for Minter.
Absolutely.
Minter.
Phenomenal. In the game, what was challenging for Carolina was 1 of 12 on 3rd downs and 1 of 3 with a pretty much junk time 4th down conversion. 6 3 and outs. It was just great, as I said. Kept the unit fresh, 22 used players. It was only Elijah Molden, the stud of the defense, who played all 48 snaps, 92.5 PFF grading. And that pick was just a shocking throw by Bryce Young.
That was terrible.
But that's just a great read on the ball and a great play to come into that. There's no way. He would have just been sitting there going, nope. The linebacker or the corner has got the inside coverage on that crossing route. No, it's coming. All right, I'm going to beat both those guys to it. Come in and snatch that one. Also thought Christian Fulton had a great game. And linebackers, especially Dayon Henley, he's really starting to elevate his football. Awesome in coverage.
Yeah.
And he's hitting. Perryman was a missile. I actually watched my first regular season game with my little fella. Started the game at a couple of hours on delay, about 6:45 a.m. And I scared the pants off that little 8-month-old. When Perryman hit Bryce Young, I yelled murder so loud, he murdered his nappy. That's for sure. It was really good. There's not too much to be upset about on the defense. Maybe the run defense wasn't too great, but
I'll tell you what was challenging for me, Andy, and then I'll turn it into a positive, is that I've now seen 2 different sides to Minter's defense. Last week, the pass rush and the pressure rating was very, very high. We're talking like 36, 37%. This week was nowhere near as much. I actually thought the interior of the defensive line struggled a bit. And Alistair, this was before you said that the interior of the Carolina offensive line is quite good. I also didn't think that the pass rush was particularly potent. So when that started, I mean, yeah, we've got Bryce Young at quarterback. I understand that. That's the caveat to all of this. But Andy, you touched on it. It was the heart of that defense. It was Perryman and Henley. 17 tackles between them. What if you've got 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss? That is a heck of a game from, 2 guys that Yeah, Perryman has always been, a thumper, but I just watched his mic'd up, and the way that he is predicting and where he is positioning himself, and the way that he sheds blocks is quite incredible against opposition offensive linemen. He's very, very fluid, and Henley is more that ranger. He's flying around and he is tackling, and he is tackling solidly. Finally, for the first time, that we are seeing guys get a hit and stick, not limp off, and then they get another 5-6 yards. So I thought Minter's defense won in a different way on Sunday than they did against the Raiders.
Yeah, agree. It was a kind of a different experience when you just dominate from the start to the end, but the team just continued to really make the plays that mattered. I'm thinking of anything to say that's slightly critical. You guys know I've always been the analytics guy. There is one thing that no one will really care because they won by 20 points. What we saw was some anti-analytics football with Harbaugh punting on 4th and 1 2 times. Sorry, 4th and 1 and 4th and 5. They took a field goal to go up 23-3, which analytically doesn't help you very much because you've gone from 17 points to 20 points. I'm not going to make a big deal of it because maybe you're happy to do some of that stuff against a team you think you're way better than. But those are 3 decisions that would be viewed up there in the fear index that gets published in terms of coaches not maximizing their win probability. So let's see. Hopefully when they play teams with good quarterbacks, they'll be more willing to go for it on 4th and 1 in the middle of the field. But, just something to take note of, listeners. Early days.
Yeah, it's a fair call. Is there much more we want to talk on defense? Like it was kind of like we were just sort of shooting fish in a barrel out there. It was just a real bad offense. I don't think anything other than sort of the 5 guys that we've spoken about did much more other than just their jobs. There was nothing super flashy. I mean, it was a few. I know, Al, you've brought up Derwin James as being a little bit sort of. It's got to be said, right? It's got to be said because we spoke about last week.
It's the other side to the Herbert coin, Andy.
Yeah,
but is it good that we're not noticing him though? Is he doing his job? Like that's kind of what I was thinking maybe on defense.
I think it's the same thing we've discussed with Herbert, getting used to not having to be the superstar. There are 2 plays. I've posted it on TDU Film for the people who follow us on Twitter, of Derwin being visibly frustrated. One where he got a tackle but didn't do it as well as he wanted to. Another where he shot a gap and missed a tackle. And he's punching the ground. The team's up by 20 points. You're punching the ground. It's good that he's holding himself to a high standard, but he might have to shift that mindset where just play your role in this team. And in the big games against the big teams, you'll make your plays, man. You'll have your moments. You don't need to do too much, nor does Justin Herbert. You've got a real coach and a real collection of teammates around you, I think.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I love it. I love his passion for like that kind of, needing to do more, or wanting to do more, but it's nice from an outsider's perspective knowing that he doesn't kind of have to. Okay, before we get to the teachable moment, Al, give us your Nah Yeah award real quick.
I've got the Yeah Nah at the minute.
Nah.
The Yeah Nah. So something for the new listeners, and I know we've got a couple. Yeah Nah is something that starts out good and then ends up not so good. And it was hard to find one of those because most people played well. But you mentioned it earlier, Andy. Cameron Dicker. Everyone's talking about you as the best young kicker in the league, and he's doing his ads and self-promotional stuff. Probably a good thing that he's come in and missed his first extra point of his career, and then also short kicked under the new kickoff rules, so penalty, and you're starting at the 40. Brother, this might have just been the coming back to earth moment you needed just to lock back in and establish or continue to establish yourself as the best young kicker in the league. But for this week, you're the Yeah Nah.
Well, obviously we didn't do these awards last week. The Nah Yeah, there was concern over bringing an injury-riddled guy over to the team. He talked a lot of talk in the off-season. We can thrash the stats to death, but 2 weeks in a row, J.K. Dobbins has played with speed and physicality that he did at Ohio State. And before any injury hampered his professional career. 135 yards last week into 131 this week at 9.9 yards a carry, 2 tutties, and the first ever Charger to start a season with back-to-back 100-yard rushing games on a paltry $1.2 million. Oh, thank you. All right, Teach, over to you, big fella.
All right. Now, people have probably been asking, well, why haven't we touched on Justin Herbert's frustration that we audibly heard over the broadcast? And here we go. So this week's Teachable Moment is titled Leadership in Moments of Frustration.
It's got a title now.
Harbaugh's leadership style, inspired by his upbringing and a strong sense of accountability, mirrors how Justin Herbert is starting to lead on the field, especially in moments of frustration. When Herbert showed visible irritation during the pre-snap miscommunication, he's not just venting, he's stepping up as a leader, demanding that his teammates match the high standard he holds for himself. This ties directly into Harbaugh's philosophy of who's got it better than us? Nobody. It's about instilling a sense of gratitude and perspective even in difficult situations. Herbert's leadership in these moments reflects Harbaugh's belief that adversity is what makes teams and individuals better. This approach is deeply rooted in Harbaugh's own experiences growing up, where his father emphasized the importance of turning every challenge into an opportunity to grow. He shared stories of walking to practice with his brothers, their dad always making them feel like they had the best life despite any hardship. Harbaugh has carried that lesson into his coaching, creating a culture of accountability and resilience. For Herbert, these moments of frustration are about pushing him and his team to overcome that specific moment of adversity on the field. Much like how a parent challenges their children to rise above setbacks. Just like in parenting, leadership is about guiding others through tough times, not sheltering them from challenges. Harbaugh's father taught him to find strength in difficult moments, and now Harbaugh, as a coach, instills that in his players. Herbert is doing the same, using frustration as a tool to elevate his teammates, teaching them to expect more of themselves and the team. In both football and parenting, it's not about everything being perfect, but about how you respond when things go wrong. Great leaders, like great parents, build a culture where accountability and growth are at the center. And that's what Herbert is embodying under Harbaugh's tutelage. Class dismissed.
Nice. Yeah, I think it needs a title every week. Like, you just pull out your little just something for you to work on moving forward.
My tone. Yeah. I think a little blackboard.
Yeah. And then
Brought to you by Mr. Riz.
Yes. My students do call me that. I don't know what Riz means, but apparently it's good.
That was Slay, man. That was Slay.
All right, week 3, Steelers preview. Chargers obviously staying on the East Coast to, just stay in the time zone. Spend some time with Unky Jim. Pittsburgh are currently sitting 2-0 themselves, sitting atop a floundering AFC North division. They sit second behind the Chargers in total points conceded, allowing 16 in total, 10 to Atlanta and 6 to Denver. As we've spoken about, Herbert scared the heck of everyone going down with the leg under DJ Johnson and Jaden Peavy. Scans have shown no significant damage, so we'll just hope for the injury report coming all good. Palmer fell on his arm, returned to the game. Christian Fulton grabbed at his thigh, groin. Yeah, geez, you're a cheeky boy coming back this week, aren't you, mate? They returned to the game as well. And what we probably didn't notice was Junior Colson leaving the game with what was reported as a minor hamstring injury. Harbaugh said he was not qualified to comment on any of these, and more will come on those fronts with Wednesday's injury report. All right, couple of headlines heading into this game. I'll kick it off. He's bested Max Crosby. He made Jadeveon Clowney look washed. Now it's time for TJ. Can Joe Alt back up an impressive start to his rookie season with his hardest task to date? He's got Alex Highsmith on the other side. Devastating with speed from the wide 9 against Denver. Ooh, made Garrett Bowles look like a road cone. Cameron Hayward and Keanu Benton having a cheeky good start to the year on the interior. Fellas.
Yeah, my headline is Fields frivolous against bullocking Bolts. Fields does give Minter a bit of a challenge. Bryce Young, very much pocket passer. Gardner Minshew, not really a scrambler. I watched Fields whilst the air game doesn't look good. I just feel like Tomlin has got something up his sleeves, running the ball and bizarre running concepts against this Minter defense. So I think the Chargers will come out strong and hard and stop the run. It's if we can keep Justin Fields in the pocket for me, and because his legs are very, very dangerous. So that's my headline.
Nice. I'm going to build on yours, mate. An adjacent headline. Has Arthur Smith fixed Justin Fields? Arthur Smith is a bit like Greg Roman. Last year, when he was Atlanta's head coach, they had the third most rushing attempts in the league. Right now, they're number one in the league. The Chargers sit sixth, just for what it's worth. What they're doing is they know what Fields is. He didn't used to be like this at Ohio State, but in the NFL, he's a one read and go quarterback. Yep. He can't throw in between the hashes. He's only had 8 pass attempts in 2 games between the hashes for 43 yards. Only one went 10 yards beyond the last line of scrimmage. However, he does have the second highest big-time throw percentage through 2 weeks. What is he doing? He's thrown the ball deep outside the numbers to George Pickens.
Yeah.
Who is a freak at catching. So I'm not going to sleep on this kind of offense. We will move into our kind of parcel keys to victory. But the real question for me is, has Arthur Smith fixed him, or is this fool's gold? What do you think in terms of keys to victory, Andy?
Big one for me is, like Jack said, contain Fields, contain the run. Artie Smith is a wizard. Take advantage of this young offensive line, rookies Zach Frazier and Troy Fautanu. And look, Pittsburgh have done a number on themselves with eliminating good plays by just stupid penalties. We've got to, you're going to have to bracket George Pickens. I think that's the safest way to go. They've still got, who have they got else? Pat Frymouth under the middle, Jack Your Boy. Yeah, linebackers are playing good. Deion Henley's looking good in coverage. So it's going to be really interesting. Mike Tomlin obviously going to cook up some stuff, and it's going to be on the dynamism of Greg Roman.
Cool. Thanks for passing the parcel there. You took about 5 layers off the parcel there before you passed it to me, but that's okay. I'm gonna say same thing. Actually, I won't. I'll go subdue Najee and Warren early. They are both very, very physical runners. It'll be a physical battle in the teeth of the offense and the defensive lines. So impose your will early on the steel curtain. Make it limp.
Yes. Make it a limp noodle, man. This is the battle. This is the battle of wills. They want to play the game in the same way as we do. They can be exploited. Patrick Queen, stinky linebacker in the run defense, at least. And Peyton Wilson, you're a rookie. So don't get away from what you want to do. It might not reap reward early, but continue to hammer the ball. Yeah, I'd love to see some more pass concepts, but you know what? I'm going to be open-minded. We don't have the best wide receivers in the world. If they want to play Harbaugh ball and run the ball down their throat, let's see if you can do it in Pittsburgh, of all places, to take this team to 3-0, my boys.
Yeah. Close one this week. First coaching roadblock for Jim, Greg, and Jesse. How do we think this one ends up, Jack?
2017 win, Chargers.
I'm flipping my prediction. I guess Steelers would win in the preseason, but I really think Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. I think Fields will give you 2 or 3 opportunities to turn the ball over, and with how Minter's defense is coached, I think we'll take them. So I'm going to say Chargers 16, Steelers 13 in an old dour affair at Windy City.
That's Chicago.
Fucking Heinz Field. That's what I wanted to say.
It's not even called that anymore. You
Can we start the episode again, boys? We're 50 minutes in. Listeners, go all the way back to the start. I did not say that, and I have not had 3 or 4 beers. Heinz Field. Andy, what is your prediction?
I promise you, look it up. It's not called that anymore. I am predicting Chargers get up 17 to 12. Chris Boswell 4 field goals.
Wow. It's not a bad shout.
All right, we've gone 3-0 for the boys this week, and we will wrap it up there, guys. If you're new, thanks very much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. We love a little bit of discourse with all our fans and naysayers. If there's any Steelers fans out there that know how to use a computer or a keyboard, give it a crack. We're as witty as they come. So thanks to everyone. Thanks for listening. Bolt the fuck up, and we'll see you next week on the Thunder Down Under.
Bye.
Ta-ta, bye-bye.
Backpedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it! Zigzag, 10, 5, high step. Touchdown! San Diego!
Woo! Good night! Good night to all!